Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Holy Trinity Church in Maisons-Laffitte. And I'm attempting to record outside today because it gives a really nice, different backdrop, and it's ever so hot here. So I am really sorry because it's a little bit windy. So if my hair blowing all over the place is a distraction, plus the traffic and the aeroplanes, then I apologise and will promise never to do this again. The readings for today will be in the description. And you know, I've been thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if every step of faith that we took came with a kind of heavenly thumbs up, some kind of divine reassurance that yes, we've got it right and we are heading in the right direction. But more often than not, faith means taking a step forward without any kind of clarity. We don't get to know everything in advance. We are just invited to trust. And today's reading, they meet us in that deeply human place where faith asks something of us. Faith asking us to move, to do something, to show up, to speak peace to others, and to do it all without guarantees. We don't carry certainty, but what we do carry is trust. And that's exactly where the gospel meets us. In Luke 10, Jesus sends out his 72 followers. Not the famous 12 that we read so much about, not the specialists or the seasoned professionals, but just the ordinary folk, the ordinary people who have simply said yes to walking with Jesus. And he sends them out with this rather strange sort of commission. He says, carry no purse, no bag, no sandals. Now I'm immediately challenged by that. I mean, I've just come back from a weekend away, and you know, there are certain essentials, aren't there? Even when it's a church weekend away, you know, the essentials are your phone, your computer, your iPad in case the computer fails, the chargers, the backup chargers, you know, a spare outfit for every possible weather condition, snacks, emergency snacks, the essential water bottle, you know, the book I carry everywhere with me that I won't read, 3 types of tea bags because you're never going to be sure what you're going to be offered. And then Jesus says to us, take nothing, no bag, no backup, no plan B, no Google Maps, no contactless, not even a flat white. Just peace in your heart, trust in God, and maybe some very dusty feet. It all sounds completely impractical, and that is exactly the point. Jesus sends them out unprepared and on purpose, because he doesn't want their confidence to come from what they've packed or how ready they feel. He wants it to come from the one who sends them. They're not told to argue or to persuade with the folks that they meet on their missional journey. They're just called to speak peace, to receive what's given, and to trust that the rest is in God's hands. And then Jesus says something else that stands out. I'm sending you out like lambs among wolves. Again, not the most comforting statement, not exactly a recruitment slogan for the Church of England, this, is it? You know, you wouldn't find this on a vocations poster. Ministry, be the sheep in a pack of wolves, sign up today. But it is honest, actually, isn't it? Because for anyone who's tried to live their faith in the real world, whether in ministry, in public life, or quietly among friends and family, you know, we know what this feels like. There are times when it can be deeply uncomfortable. It can expose us in some ways, making us feel incredibly vulnerable. But Jesus doesn't ask for polish or perfection. He asks for our presence. He sends them and us, not because they're ready or we're ready, but because they and we are willing. And when they're received, they stay and they build relationship. And when they're not, they move on with grace, without taking offense, brushing the dust off of their feet. Because you see, the call is not to succeed. The call is simply to go. And maybe some of us need to hear that, especially those feeling like they've tried and they've not been heard, or they served and they've not been thanked, or they've spoken peace and it's been ignored. It's easy to think that if people don't respond favourably to us, then we've somehow failed. But Jesus says, just go. Just go. You're not responsible for the outcome. You're responsible for the offering. Now, Naaman, that guy from our Old Testament reading, he is a really powerful man, Naaman. He was respected and used to being in control. But we heard about a time in his life when he was also very vulnerable, very sick and in need. And the answer that he is given to overcome this sickness is go and wash in the Jordan River. And this seems ridiculous to him. It's far too ordinary. He's expecting something dramatic. He's expecting some sort of a healing with a flair, you know. He doesn't want a muddy dip in a backwater stream somewhere. And at first he's really offended. But eventually he lets go of his pride and he obeys something small. And what happens? Healing. The healing follows. You know, sometimes the hardest thing for us to do is the simplest thing that God asks of us, especially when it doesn't feel that impressive. And then in the Galatians, in Paul's letter to the Galatians, Paul picks up on this kind of thread and tells us to bear with one another's burdens. Don't grow weary in doing what is right. Because let's be honest, these things that I'm talking about today, they can be tiring. Trust can be tiring. Doing good quietly, consistently, without recognition can be wearying, you know, especially when we don't see quick results to all the effort that we're putting in. But Paul reminds us the seeds we sow now will grow. Yeah, maybe not today, maybe not how we expect, but God is faithful. The outcome is not our job. The offering is. So what do we take away from all of this? Well, it's really that I think that God doesn't wait for us to feel fully ready, because we would never feel fully ready for this. He sends us as we are, not with everything sorted, but with hearts that are willing to trust him. And he sends us not with clever words, but just with peace. And not with certainty, but with faith. And not to win, but to love. So I think here's the real question that this scripture asks of us. What is the one thing that we are being asked to do and we're not doing it because we don't feel ready? What is that? Where is God nudging us to act, even if we're not sure how it's going to go? And who needs our peace, our presence, our perseverance, even if they don't respond how we would hope they would respond? Because the thing is, it's not always going to be comfortable for us. We've been told that in scripture, but it will be faithful. Because the calling that we have received was never about being in control. It was always about being sent. So this week, go honestly, go lightly, and go knowing that God walks ahead of us. Have a good week, everyone.